Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Court of the Wild Hunt. Hope you're all having a good day. Today I am proposing to have a little look at the raid, the Hunt and Hunted, since I seem to have a melee here, this Paladin I've been playing in the Lamordia quests, if any of you have seen any of those recently. He seems to be robust enough to tackle some of these raids on his own, so I thought it might be a good opportunity to go in there and try to explain the basics of it for those of you who don't raid very much or haven't seen this one. Thought it might be quite nice. I thought I would start with the action, the raid this time, and put the waffle in afterwards. I've got one or two things to say about the current state of the game, some of the more prevalent topics in the forums, that kind of thing, and just one or two little bits and pieces I wanted to get off my chest, but I'm going to save those for afterwards. We're going to go straight ahead and get stuck into the raid. Do I have any sound on? That's the first thing. There we go, we do. So the first thing to know here, if you're still waiting for people, I think it's suggested to wait for them here in the entrance area. Don't speak to the person and go in there, because I think once everybody's in there, it locks up and new people can't then join. So wait here at the entrance area. I'm going to throw all the buffs on. So basically, this whole thing takes place in one big area, that room ahead of us that you can see. You don't ever need to go out of there if you're not doing the optionals. Once you've finished the first two fights in the main area here, you've got an optional to the left, an optional to the right. Completing both of those gets you an extra end chest, and typically the group would always do that. So be careful if you happen to be the one talking to the NPC in the middle here after the initial two fights are done. Always choose bring on the optional extras. Don't choose go straight to the end fight, because that's the quickest way to upset the other people in your group and cause a restart of the raid. Okay. I think that'll about do us. So the first two are relatively straightforward. Just boss beat downs. We do have archers and things around the sides, so typically you would have people, maybe ranged characters, assigned to take those things down. I'm hopeful we won't suffer too much from said archers, because we do have deflect missiles. So we're not focusing too much on the trash, just beating down the senior hunter here. I'll renew the haste boost whenever that comes off cooldown. Keep sundering. This is one thing I found recently, or somebody passed it on to me, a little nugget. The fourth core in the Crusader tree, something to do with sunder, is it divine sundering or something? Even if you fail the sunder, which as we can see I'm succeeding on it more often than not, even if you fail the sunder, it gives this extra divine sundering. So as far as I understand it, those effects down there at the bottom are on top of the standard sunder effect. Where am I now? I'm completely disoriented. Am I in the right place? No, am I heck? She bows, then whistles for her own house. Okay. So same deal again. Just got to be wary of these circles. I think is it heavy acid damage or something in those circles? And this one as well seems to be able to do some kind of a hold effect on the player, against which there seems to be no save, if I've got it right. I can't believe I'd be failing. Or maybe I've been rolling a 1 actually. Maybe there is a save and I've been rolling 1s. That's possible. There you go, look, right on cue. I didn't see a 1 for a save though there. Can't seem to use my harper pin to get out of that. So it's one of those where you just have to grin and bear it and hope that you get through it. And again. Okay, happy days.
The master of the hunt.
So now we get this dialogue. So you can see start final challenge, bring on extra challenges. So you always go for the extra challenges, and beating one of them makes the other one tougher, so I've been told. And as this Pomora one is regarded as the most problematic one, it would be typical to go into this first. If you have something like Fire Shield Hot to cast on yourself, that would be good, because there's a ticking cold damage that goes on the longer you're in here. So the basic premise here is to hunt down that Chief Pixie, that Pomora, run around the maze. She can be anywhere random. So we'll check the pink section. The other pink section. Come on. No sign there, so not in the pink. Blue. Nope. Anything? Nope. Okay. So you can see the ticking damage. It starts off quite tame, but I think that goes all the way up to 100. I'm not sure there's a way to alleviate it, save for completing this side and getting rid of Pomora, which on my own I'm not going to do in a hurry. So it's as well we have a decent elemental absorb. Just check this area, the green area. There she is, okay. And off she goes, so we've got to check the other areas. We'll check this white one since we're here. Nobody home. Is that the only one? The white one? I thought there were normally 2. No? Okay. Let's go and check up here. Back into the blue area. A little bit of a pain this, but it's not too bad. If you have semi-decent resist, you can see that. Did you see that swirl, that yellow swirl? That's a giveaway that she's in the area. Okay. So let's go and check. There was another area going immediately onto here, wasn't there? The pink one, right? Let's just check in there. No. The other pink one. Nope. So she's not in blue or pink. Where else could she be? pretty sure there are better ways when I'm doing the raids in a group. Some people seem to know exactly where she's gone to, and I just struggle. There are times when I don't see her at all when I'm part of a group, just running around like a lemming. Not there. So not white, pink or blue. What's left? Here we go, the green. So with a haste boost, we do get a shrine before the end of the option. Well, after the end of the optional thing. I think we could take it now if we wanted to do. Not white or green. So I can burn all the haste boosts on the optional section, knowing that we will get them back. Anything up here? Okay, we'll check the blue one again. Nope. Let's go pink. Apologies if you're seeing different colours to me. I am sort of colourblind, so... Ah, there we go. Now, come on, can we finish it this time? Happy days. And there's a DDO pops up for, not just for us here that killed her, for everybody else in the maze. There's a DDO in whatever section they happen to be. So everybody can just jump out at that point. Don't forget to gather the stone of any squishies who have died in there to the damage over time. That's important.
For his very life.
Okay, so trap on the lower levels like normal where we are now, or hard, trap disabling shouldn't really be too much of an issue. But if you get into like Elite and Reaper, then I would suggest if you have a trapper that they disable the things around the edge to make it a bit easier, because it can get quite painful. Blast of the haste boost. Throw all my smites in as well. Ranged can of course take out these annoying harpies that are pestering us, but I would guess that they disappear anyway when this big thing is defeated. Do they? Yes, happy days. Okay, so we rest up.
The final challenge will be more exciting than I previously imagined.
Now, important thing for this last stage, if not before, I think there is a stage where you can get them before if you take longer to beat the bosses down, which at the higher levels you can do. These, you might have heard people talk about these souls that pop up with a timer next to them. It's important that each group member, well, each one is covered by a group member, because for every soul not covered, the whole group takes a chunk of sonic damage. So it's nice to have something like this. We've got MRR and sonic absorption on there to try to mitigate some of that, because I'm going to take at least one, probably two chunks of that the time it's going to take me to beat the guy up. So sonic absorption and resistance, nice to have here. I've made a real mess there. I've set it going before I've done any of my buffs. that could really
The
cost me.
master of the hunt enters the arena. He draws his spear and goes
Okay,
the final
do our best.
the master of the hunt.
Keep an eye on the haste boost. Set that going again as soon as it comes off. If you get one of those countdown timer things on you, that pink thing, stay out of the way of that. That's a nasty attack he has. If you get one of those countdown timers on you, go away from the rest of the group. I think it's a similar mechanic to what is in another raid. I use the go big here, not because we particularly need it, but to give us a bit more damage on him. Okay, happy days. So despite the fact I completely cocked up at the start, I could have had other things like the severed tentacle on, but if I'd have stopped to activate it, I would have lost out even more, so more fool me there. There can be some nice loot to drop in here. I think there's something called a stable stone that you can use to make a special set of augments. But there's also the Pomura's Memento, which can be turned into an augment to give a 5% stacking bonus to spellcaster universal crit chance, I think, which is very nice. And failing everything else, there's 2 sets of runes for doing the raid with the optionals and 2 sets of threads of fate. So not terrible. But you do need a fairly robust character to have a go at that, to survive all the pummeling that you're going to get. So not too shabby. Quite happy with that. I've started doing that recently. Only once I've had this melee at cap, with me focusing previously on ranged and casters. I had nothing of that type that would have stood a chance in something like this. But Fulz is doing quite well as a melee, so I think I know I'm going to keep this Paladin build around for some time. He's never going to set any speed records for clearing content, but his objective is to be survivable because he spends a lot of time questing on his own. I would imagine he could be quite an asset to a group as well as a bit of a focal point, while other more devastating but more squishy damage dealers make hay with all the sneak attack opportunities he provides with his Intimidate. He has a reasonable Intimidate. But anyway, let's get on to the waffly section. So to those of you not interested in that, thanks very much as always for looking. I'll see what I can come up with for next time. So first item, very prevalent in the forums for some time already, is the current plight of the casters in the game. I think I'm right in saying this really began with the nerfing of the Dragon Breath, which I think most, if not all, would agree was pretty much the only decent option for an epic strike that casters had at that time. And yeah, I can comment, and I think I did at the time, using my caster druid build. That Dragon Breath was by far and away the biggest part of the damage for that build, and I think for many caster builds as well. It was way superior to the level 9 spell Tsunami that the druid gets. and it's been nerfed hard enough that now it's way inferior. I mean, hugely so against the tsunami. So much so that I don't even use it anymore on the build. I've My solution was to go all out in the Magus tree. I don't even use Draconic at all, which I know many people would say is a crime because the Draconic Mantle is the most damaging one a caster can use. But I like the Moonlance. I think the Moonlance, albeit single target, probably does as much damage as the old Dragon Breath used to, but obviously only against a single target. But it also has the hold. I think it might be broken at the moment. The hold element there might not be giving a save because it never hardly seems to fail that. But on the flip side to that, the 0 degree or 0 damage comet as it is now in the tier 5 of the Magus tree now treats every opponent like they've got evasion. So if they make the save, the thing literally does no damage. So that's a bit unfortunate. But yes, to go back to the original point, the plight of the casters, I think what people are saying, they're talking about an increasing amount of group postings being made, and either in some cases just because you can specify, can't you, in some cases which classes you want or you don't want, and sometimes in the written area as well, they'll say limited caster space or no casters, DPS only, that kind of thing. And by DPS they mean melee and ranged. Typically now in the raids, aside from healers, I it's very rare I even see a caster. That's even in the public rooms on the legendary hard, which literally you could go in with anything and be, helpful. But people tend not to. And I must say, I won't be giving up on the Cold Druid. I enjoyed the play style, back in the day when it was really powerful. That was great fun to just go and smash everything to bits. I still enjoy it now. I, as I said, I don't use the Dragon Breath. I quite enjoy the tier 5 Magus using the time stop. I mean, that's particularly helpful to groups. I mean, in raids particularly, but any end boss you can really do well there. And if soloing, you can make the end boss a bit more palatable for yourself. But the Moonland's epic strike as well, nasty single target damage plus vulnerability. Although there is a bug there, I'm led to believe. The vulnerability element, it does okay for the first shot, but for any subsequent shots, I don't think it adds up the stacks of vulnerable as it probably should do. So there are some buggy elements in that Magus tree, but it's the best one I've found to go with the cold druid build. So what do I do? Magus and Primal. I think that's a fairly obvious one. And the third one is just for the wings, basically. The Exalted, something like 11, not much more than 11 points just for that third core and for those wings, which keep me out of the clutches of the nastier Reaper element. So yeah, just to say, I have noticed I don't group much, as I think you probably know by now, but I have noticed the I suppose it's a practical stance against having casters in these raids because they take longer to complete, I guess. I mean, to be quite honest, legendary hard, 12 of pretty much anybody, you should be doing okay, especially on the softer ones. But that's just my opinion. I think it makes for a nicer group if you start seeing these in the legendary hard ones. If you start seeing these 2K or under, don't apply. It just seems a bit much, I think. I don't think you need to go to that, not when you're playing down at that level. But maybe that's just me. So I've kind of responded to that. I did have my cold druid sitting at the cap, but given that he was pretty much only ever going to be any use for going and perhaps healing a raid, which I think the build could do. They've got those two ticking AoE heals, haven't they? The mass regenerate and mass greater vigor, and plus the heal spell itself for the tank. So I don't see why they couldn't go and do all right in a legendary hard raid as a healing role. But ultimately, I've ended up putting him back on the hamster wheel. Hamster wheel isn't too much my thing. I've got all my others at the cap, but he's going back and he's doing a couple more sorcerer lives to give him a bit more on his evocation DC. Not such a terrible thing for a druid to have, I don't think. So that's been my response to sort of casters being, shall we say, slightly less welcome in the end game content. Just to put him back on the hamster wheel, still have fun with things that I enjoy. I mean, you can't beat a caster for rattling through especially the heroic content. I've got him as a fire sorcerer at the moment, a tiefling fire sorcerer, and he's absolutely flying through. I suppose I could use that as a link to my next point I'm going to make. So many times I hear, oh, I'd like to do this, but I can't because I don't have enough racial points. I mean, really, the number of times I've heard that, and yes, there probably are one or two real, top end builds that need, every single point spent in here and there to make the thing click. But otherwise, if you want some investment in the racial tree and don't have any actual racial points to put, to me, if it's good, if the tree's good enough, like the half orc or the tiefling fire thing for the immunity stripping, just throw the points in and have a good time with it. This business of, oh, I'll not do that until I've got all these 20 racial lives sorted. I just can't get my head around that. If the tree's good enough, just go for it. That's my thing. So long story short, I started off that life with 16 points in the tiefling tree, having only 4, I think, natively, and that gave me the ability for the scorch spell, both the spell that I get, natively as a sorcerer, and the SLA from the tiefling tree. Both of those can strip any fire immunity. So suddenly, from a very early level, something like 6 or 7, I just didn't care about any immunities or any backup element, just throwing fire all over the place. Very immersive, lots of fun, no problem. It is a little bit. I mean, still, when you get something that should be fire immune and is taking reduced damage from it, it can take a bit to chip them down. But between the fireball, the two scorches, it's and they're on short cooldowns. I can't believe how short the cooldown is on the sorcerer's fireball and scorch spell. I mean, you've literally stopped casting one and the other one's off cooldown. It's all you could get away with just those two, I think, in the earlier levels. So too long didn't listen. Caster's still loads of fun. I will continue to play mine. Just about the last thing I did with him before I TR'd him, I did a Reaper 6 legendary Mythdrana, and he did really well, to be honest. I know what you're going to say, some of you Reaper 10 peoples, although I doubt anybody who plays Reaper 10 regularly would listen to my waffle, but still. It's only Reaper 6 and it's at Reaper 10 that you really start to see the problems for the casters. I can get that, and the spell points, even with Evergreen that I use, don't go far enough because nothing seems to do very much damage wise. But in that Reaper 6, there were people, all sorts of decent melees, and he was helping. He was holding things and doing the AoE damage. It felt pretty good when I could actually keep up with the group. Even with wings, I was struggling. But the thing I remember most is the best player in there, one who is very kindly putting loads of helpful builds into the forums for other people to try. He made a comment that sort of struck a chord. He said after our quest, he said, "Oh yeah, I might like to try a caster nuker. And then he said, the old chestnut, but they're no good in Reaper 10, are they? And that's it. Just seemed a bit of a shame. It's like, well, that seems like fun, but no good for the end game content, so it's not going to be used. And I think that's quite a few people's, the more experienced players, they want to have a serious influence, want to be able to carry a group in the end game content, and if the build isn't capable of doing that, then it kind of gets glossed over, which is a shame. I mean, if people get their wish, and let's say the caster high reaper nerf damage thing gets removed, and we start going back to the situation where nobody else need apply because the casters have already blasted the whole room before you can even get there, I don't think that's going to be particularly popular either. So I don't know what the optimal solution is. But for me, I shall continue to play my druid, have fun with it, and just play at a level appropriate. I don't tend to go above Reaper 6 with him, and I have a lot of fun with that. So still happy days on my side of the fence for it. What else was I going to say? Yes, I noticed recently that this Paladin build Fools is using seems to be more or less impervious to quell, because both the renewal and the rage heal are not counted as standard spells, I don't think. So under quell, they still work perfectly. And I would imagine the hands, which are not technically a spell either, would work just as nice. So he really, apart from the screen going dark, he doesn't care at all about quelling. So I just noticed that was nice in passing. I think that was in the Armies of Eternal Night quest that I saw that. And I just thought, yeah, I'll make a little note. One thing I have done since you last saw him in the Lamordia, I've taken the liberty, because I'd read it generally in some of these comprehensive build posts. People talk about swapping weapons in for various things. Generally speaking, I'm opposed to this. So, for example, the Sanctified Fervor filigree that you can put on a Paladin to give yourself up to 25 melee, extra melee power, I think it is. Let me show you. Oops. No, let's get it right. Right, this one. So you can see there when 5 pieces are equipped, when you do a Smite Evil, 5 melee power plus 1 per religious law that you have, which is 20 in our case for pure paladin. So every time we do a smite, we get 25 melee power, and we have to ideally do it once a minute. Now, the purists would say just swap a weapon in and get that effect. That's too much for me. Once every minute, I can't do it, especially if I'm doing other swap things as well. And they would also say do it before a haste boost for something like the prowess 50 melee power for 5 pieces of prowess filigree. I can't do that, it's just too much. I would end up leaving in the swapped in thing. So the limit of my thing is to take for our battle trance here, our divine might, which is a charisma trance from the Knight of the Chalice paladin tree. I take just any random weapon here. Actually, it's not quite random, because it's a dino one, which I've been able to slot +2 extra charisma into as well. So can we put that in there? And all it is loaded with, it's not quite maxed out yet, but just loaded with as much charisma, or whatever your relevant stat is, as you can fit in. So I've cheated and put 2 exceptional charisma anyway, but we've got all these filigrees. That's actually a raid one for 2 charisma, and so is that. So we've got 4 there, 5, 6, just as many different ones as you can. There are loads of different ones. If you've been playing for a while, you're bound to have collected all this kind of stuff. So we can see we start off with a 66 charisma, which isn't terrible for a 3rd stat on the character, But then when we swap in the weapon to just before activate, so I'll do 7, 8, 9. So swap in, activate trans, and then back to the standard weapon. But you can see there we go up 12. So that's +6 hit, damage, and tactic DC, as far as I'm aware. So well worth just a little bit of messing about. Swap, trans, swap back, and that's for like a 2 minute 2 minute trans duration. So I do that now on my arty and on this paladin character, and that's as far as I'm prepared to go, at least for now, with the swapping of things. But it is, I just thought I'd point it out because it's mentioned in a lot of these threads that I read, build posts. It's something you can do as a little project in time to feed a bit of sentient food to and make a swap weapon to give yourself a little bit of an edge. So that's that. Okay. Another interesting point I saw raised recently in the forum was this business of the ranger spells. Now, if we look, well, it's quite apt actually because we can see here the paladin ones. The paladins had a recent pass, and my God, the some of the spells they've got are just unreal. This is biased in even further by having the heavy investment in the Sacred Defender tree. So I've got all the raise, reincarnate, all that kind of line as well. But some of these here, I mean, this one here, 15. Is it actually? That could be more than it says. Caster level 27 there. Does it? Does it in fact give more than 15? Melee power. What's the melee power at the moment? 284. So if we cast that now, 29. No, so it is capped at 15 then. So even so, 15 melee power, really nice. And then this one here, the angel skin, the defensive one. What's the PRR and MRR? It goes shooting up for that. So that's lovely as well. Everybody knows about the holy sword, one threat range and damage multiplier, and the nice thing there is it works for all the weapons. So if I happen to swap, I've got like a boss beating weapon down here and a standard thing, my what's it called, ignition, for all with all the paralyzing stuff on for the trash, and both get the holy sword without me having to mess about casting it twice, whatever. Zeal, 10 double strike, the list goes on. So some really, really competitive buffs here. Very strong, to the extent that people routinely take 14 and 15 levels of paladin on characters that are not paladins, like dragon lords or even ranged characters. The inquisitives were doing 14 paladin as a build of choice until recently. So, yeah, strong enough that other builds and playstyles will dip in there just for those spells. And at the other extreme, you've got the poor ranger. Let me just have a run the rule over theirs. I think I'm right in saying Ram's Might may well be the only meaningful one they have. Jump, okay. Resist energy, yeah. But let's talk offensively. So we've got Ram's Might and anything with a DC. I mean, hold animal, it's so niche. But anything with a DC, you're not really, unless you're in a really niche build like maybe a para arrow type thing. I just don't see. I don't see them making anything. So I think the suggestion was made. Yeah, there's very little in here, is there? There's a couple of cure spells. Freedom of movement's not bad, but people tend to have either the bottle or have it on the gear. And really nothing offensive. So as far as I can tell, that's a good point that the person made, that the ranger is lagging well behind the paladin on that side of things. Would be nice to see, comparable or different buffs. Another point that was made recently about the ranger that I wholeheartedly agree with, you've got classes like the barbarian with uncanny dodge, and a class like the ranger, which you would think, light armor, gets evasion eventually, you would think should get access to something like that, and doesn't. So again, it seems like they're getting a bit shortchanged. So I would agree that they could use a little love. That would be the too long didn't listen version for that. I think I would like to see in time some nicer, more impactful, shall we say, spells for that class. Last but not least, I guess we'll end on the, what do you call it? The perennial. Um, is it the bugbear in the room or whatever you call it? It's got to be the lag, hasn't it? I read something recently from a very seasoned player, again another one who posts all the time super builds for the rest of us to experiment with and follow, and they were saying that not on Moonsea, by the way. I think this was on Thrain, and they were saying that it had got to such a stage that the group had just kind of put DDO on the back burner until such a time as the situation might improve. I just think it's a shame. And then taking that one step further, you read about these poor buggers who've had their accounts stuck in transit, with the transfer system, and seemingly got nowhere with the customer service. I mean, that's a real shame. I mean, if they're basically saying the only thing you can do is go and start a new account, on one of the new servers, and that's it, then I could totally understand the people just saying enough's enough at that stage. I think I would do the same. The thought of starting again from scratch, I don't think would appeal to many of us, would it? Given that DDO is like for the long haul, so to speak, for many of us. So yeah, all I can say there is I sincerely hope this procedure they've embarked on of this sequence of updates is going to bear fruit. I feel almost guilty saying it, but on the Moonsea, I've seen very little. I mean, granted, I've gone from being on an American server that was overpopulated, the Orion. So I was living in the UK. I was far from the server as well, which I'm sure didn't help my cause. Now I'm very close to it, being as it's in Holland. I'm sure that plays into it, but even so, I haven't heard many on Moonsea complaining too much, and the ones that are not reporting anything like, the 25-minute freeze fests that I've heard on the other two. So, yeah, I can only say I feel sorry for all you folks out there, and I do hope they manage to do something to help with these new Las Vegas servers. It seems a bugger to end on a sorry note. I should have put this in first and then put something else afterwards. But I think that's just about all I've got to say for this one. I'm glad the raid side of it at least went well, despite my attempt to sabotage it at the final part. But yeah, I'll have a see what I can come up with. Maybe we'll do a little bit on the caster side, seeing as they've been so unloved of late. I I honestly don't envisage changing that character out of the cold druid. I've gone to a real length to make him a nice set of gear. So I think I'm going to have a bit of fun doing the two sorcerer lives for some evocation DC, and then maybe I'll put a couple of alchemist on him as well, because the um what's it called, the thing you spam for the AoE, the ice flowers on the cold druid is a transmutation which you can get through alchemist past lives, and I happen to find the alchemist a great deal of fun too, although I'm sad to say I don't think I will ever be one of those who can manipulate the spikes, the reaction spikes, which you really need to do to be a quality alchemist player. I think that's a little bit beyond me, so I'm going to stick with the cold druid in time. Right, I think that's definitely waffle over. Thanks very much, as always, for looking, listening, whatever you've been doing. Have a good time if you're able to do any questing at all, and I will speak to you next time. Take care.